People typically say your name or your last name, right?
Yeah.
When
They don't say it right for the right reasons, right? They don't know what an AU is supposed to sound like. So they just say sour as if it said SOU. And they're saying it right, but not because they know how to pronounce an AU in a German name, but because the closest thing their brain recognizes is SOU. And so they say Sauerland. I'm like, yeah, that's right.
So that is correct.
Yeah.
So has anyone ever said Sauerland?
Said what?
Sauerland?
Oh, like just meshed it together like Sauerland?
Yeah.
I don't know. Not really.
Okay, because that's kind of my impulse with your last name. I'm not going to lie to you. Like knowing it's German.
Well, you see, let me correct that. Sig Sauer is a German company, and it's spelled the exact same way. Sauer.
I'm just not realizing that.
If they had a theme park, they would call it Sig Sauerland. Exactly the same as my last name.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Interesting. Very nice. I've gotten Espinoza my entire life. There is no Z, nor is there an O in my last name, but people find a way to work it in there.
Yeah, it's just, I'm like, that's so far off from what I'm pretty sure your last name is that I'm like, I'm hesitant to say, like, your last name is Espina, right?
It's Espina. That was correct.
Okay, yeah. Espinoza is just so far off of that, I assume that I'd be at least a little bit wrong.
That's what I'm saying. Or they add in the inye, like the little swiggle of the
it
N.
might be Espina.
Exactly. And they literally add it in to like sound more culturally sound. And then you don't say anything because you want them to just, I don't think, like, some people I think need to go on in their life and feel that like I said her last name right and that was cool. And I'm cool now.
Can be more important in the moment, especially if you're not going to be hanging out a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes you have to pick your battles.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of today, we're only going to be talking about combatives.
Dope.
So, okay. I'm joking, by the way. Okay, cool.
I have all kinds of questions because I don't know anything about combatives.
Amazing. Now I'm scared to say your name, even though we just talked about it.
Sig Sauer.
Hi, Joey.
Good morning.
Good morning. It is 7 a.m. Mountain time, so
Is it already 7? I thought it was like 6.
It's like 7:15 at this point because I did that thing where I changed my hoodie like 5 times because it's actually kind of warm in my apartment, even though it's cold outside. And also, happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. How
Spooky.
exciting. Spooky. Seriously. And it's still dark outside. You can't even see the mountains. Like if you look out, you can't see past like the just block of clouds. So it's kind of insane.
In the scenic parking lot.
The scenic parking lot. Exactly. Well, thank you for being here. This is going to be an episode between 1 and 10. Who knows? I'm not that organized, but I'm very glad you're here. We had an episode 1, or I guess a part 1 in season 1, which I remember every part of, obviously. So I'm really excited to be back. And no, it's okay. I did that thing in new guest speaker episodes where I don't know the person very well and I'm just like the whole time I'm panicking, and you can tell it's not like subtle. It's like my questions are jumbled, and I don't know. It was cool though. I feel like we vibed, it worked out, and now you're in Utah.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, now I'm in Utah.
You're in Utah.
Hopefully we can get some spicy information out here.
Yes, absolutely.
What do the people want to know? That's the question, aside from how to pronounce my last name.
Absolutely. Well, for those that don't know you, would you introduce yourself?
Yes, my name's Joey Sauerland. I'm a competition shooter. I shoot for Masterpiece Arms. They're a company that makes competition guns, and they make 2011s, if you know what those are. And so I shoot USPSA and IPSC, and I travel all over the country and the world for competition shooting. And I just recently returned from the IPSC Handgun World Championships, where I was a member of Team USA, which was very cool. Very cool to get to go to Africa, represent the United States. Excellent opportunity. It's very cool. Yeah. The trip was good. We were all a little bit concerned about South Africa.
Yes.
Initially, but it ended up being fine. Where we stayed was very secluded out in the middle of nowhere. Very luxurious accommodations.
Good. And did you stay in a pretty big group? I'm assuming Masterpiece Arms shooters.
No, actually, because I was originally the only Masterpiece Arms team shooter who was going to be going, because I had a spot they determine who gets spots on Team USA based on your finish at nationals.
Right.
So I was on Team USA, but it ended up being that there's open registration where the remaining spots of the match get filled up after the slots that are given to shooters who've earned slots in certain countries to be part of that national team. There's other open slots that can be taken up by anybody. And one of the other MPA team shooters, Mike Huang, got one of those spots. So we were together, even though he wasn't there on Team USA. He was there just as a shooter, but he actually shot a really great match in open division, and he ended up beating 3 of the 4 guys who were on Team USA.
Whoa.
Yeah, it was pretty spicy. He wasn't even on the team. Like normally the people on the team are supposed to be the best people from that country.
Right.
And they are, right? Like the other 3 guys they're also excellent open shooters. It just so happened that at that match, Mike shot really well and beat 3 of the 4 open team guys.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, this makes more sense. This helps put Shotgun World in context a little bit, because someone was like, hey, if you don't make the team, just go as an individual and like beat everyone. And I was like,
Yes, exactly.
absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. So be Mike Wang. That sounds really cool.
Yeah, be Mike Huang. He's cool. And it's actually Huang. We're talking about how to pronounce the last name. Yeah. He's Korean, and his last name is pronounced Huang. And
Nice.
yeah, just occasionally it'll come up that everyone calls him Huang. Everyone always has, and it's just not worth correcting him all the time.
Got you. Okay, and we're perpetuating that right now.
Yeah, so Mike Huang.
Wow. Okay, that does sound kind of cooler. So that's exciting. Oh my God. Okay, so remind me, how many years have you been in the sport so far?
I started shooting in 2021.
And you went to your first world shoot already.
Yeah.
That's insane. Even I know that that's a huge deal. And I'm still like, almost doing this completely recreationally, even though I want to take it to the next level. We're going to talk about that. It's not about me right now, though. That's insane.
It's becoming more, I'd like to say, oh yeah, I'm the only person who's ever gotten good that fast, that good that fast. But it's becoming a very trendy thing, more so, to get good really fast. I don't know if I think there's at least like a little bit of like because it's possible, more people do it now, Someone sets a new world record in the 100-meter dash, and like it was thought impossible, but then next year somebody breaks that record,
Yeah.
And so there are a good number of people who are getting good really fast, like Alistair, who we hung out with.
Yes.
He just placed 10th in the nation at nationals in limited optics division, which is the most competitive division in the sport right now. And I think he started 2 years ago, which is really unheard of. Right. It's really unheard of. But there's certain things you can do to get extremely proficient with a handgun very fast. The biggest one being, very high amounts of dry fire training. And he's been doing that. He's been doing that a lot.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, and that's what I did too, to make progress quickly.
Right. And at what point did he start with you in his journey? Do we know?
Early on. So over a year ago, he took my class, my one-day class when I was out in Salt Lake City. And the first hour of that class is how to dry fire properly, right? It's not just, we talk about, the name of the one-day class that I teach is Defining Success with Joey Sauerland. And a lot of people, if they do dry fire training, their definition of success is, just got to get my hands on the gun for 20 minutes a day,
Yes.
And it's just not, that's not a very good definition of success. So, picture any other athlete in any sport. You're in the gym and you see an NFL, quarterback or something, and you're like, oh, wow, look, it's so-and-so. He gets paid $22 million a year. What are you doing in the gym today, so-and-so? And they say, just got to work out for 30 minutes. You'd say, that's kind of stupid. Just, you got to kind of be participating for 30 minutes? Like, what? What are you talking about?
Right.
So that the first huge part of the class, actually over an hour of the class, is how do you define success in your dry fire training? How do you make it effective? How do you make it fun? How do you make it effective? Really just is the best word, right? Like just holding the gun and pointing it at things. If you're absolutely new to handguns completely, or guns at all, maybe you would get some benefit from that. But if you're already a competition shooter and you want to get better, that's not enough.
Right.
We need to better define success.
Would you say that this came from your years of personal training and bodybuilding, like having to really think about what your idea of success was because of the timelines you were on and the competitive nature of the sport?
Definitely, yeah. And then I also, from getting into competition shooting, I kind of put myself on a timeline. When I first started, I kind of told myself, this is cool. This is something I want to do. This is something I want to get good at. But if it's going to take me 10 years to get really good at it, I'm going to do something else.
Right.
I'll go pick up racquetball or something, or pool. But,
Right.
10 years is a long time. And when you first start in the sport, I make my living, coaching, shooting now. That's what I do. And so I'm heavily invested in it now, but especially when people start shooting, there's very, very few paid professional shooters. People get into it and start doing it because it's a hobby. So when I first started, my thought was, I'm not going to invest 10 years in this hobby that doesn't pay anything. It's fun, but 10 years is a long time, right? And, when I was doing bodybuilding, I thought, this is the coolest thing, right? I can't imagine being into something other than bodybuilding. And now here I am into shooting, and working out is something I do, to stay in shape, to still try and look good. But it's very much just kind of like, that's now just a pastime and a hobby, and I do because it's healthy, working out.
Right.
But shooting is now what I do. But when I first started, it was like, hey, this is just a hobby, and I'm not going to plan on committing 10 years to getting good at this, you know? Especially because it doesn't pay anything, right? You should invest 10 years in your physical fitness because that's your body and you want to live long and have a high quality life. But
yes,
for shooting, yeah, it's tough. So I was on a timeline from the start because to me, I was like, this is something I would like to be good at, but it's not something that I'm willing to put 10 years. I'm not willing to commit 10 years. I'm not willing to make my plan a 10-year plan, right?
Right.
I was thinking like, a couple years. If I'm not good at this in a couple years, I'm going to do something else.
I like that. I like that a lot. There's a couple things you said, a couple directions I want to go, but I think one of the most important messages is that we should constantly prove ourselves wrong when it comes to our limitations and not wait for someone to set a record for us to be like, ooh, maybe we can do that. The shotgun journey was one of the most crazy things ever. Lena helped me qualify in 3 months, and having the right people around you, having the right influence and accountability partners and everything. I mean, Lena's a pretty big freaking accountability partner there. That was a big message to me, and showing up and doing what I did. That was the first time that I was like, maybe I should take USPSA seriously. And shotgun stage planning was so much harder than USPSA stage planning.
Oh yeah.
Just because I only had 11 to 14 rounds, depending on what tube I was running. And so you have to count your targets religiously. And then you have to account for your skill level and the distance and chokes and things that you just don't have to do with USPSA. So you have the amount of intentionality going in is crazy. And I started thinking about my USPSA journey, and I was like, I've really not been defining success, and I've been using it as a way to get outside. And
nice.
Yes, super nice. And also just a way to become more proficient in handling a firearm. But it's one of those things, if you give yourself 3 hours to clean the house and you're tired and you don't want to, do it, you'll wait until maybe the last hour. Whereas if you tell yourself I need to have this done realistically by 2:30 so that I can then relax and budget for time and give yourself a true timeline, a measurable goal, it's very different. And I'm starting to realize that I'm also hanging out around a lot of really great shooters, and I'm kind of tired of being in the background. So this is a really good reminder. This is really awesome.
Did you shoot shotgun before those 3 months? Okay, that's what I thought. You were just totally new.
Right.
Nice.
Yes, absolutely. Nice. Yeah. So yeah, that was interesting. That was interesting. Okay, so tell me something. The last time we talked, you were preparing. We talked about how you wanted to go to your first world shoot, right? That was on the radar. They're every 3 years, correct?
They were every 3.
Okay.
During this world shoot, the council of elders or whoever they are, they get together.
That sounds right.
And they vote on new things, right? Changes in the sport, rule changes, whatever. And it is now every 4 years. Oh. They made that change. Yeah. So the next one will be in 2029.
Wow.
In Italy.
Whoa. That sounds okay. Okay. Wait, I have more questions now. There's another direction I wanted to go, but now I'm more curious about this. So if someone's listening and they're like, that is a goal I want to set for myself, I want to be able to go. Can anyone technically go with an individual slot as long as they can afford it?
Yeah, anybody can go with an individual slot. Those do fill up very fast. Those are kind of hard to get. Yeah.
Okay, so and it's one of the more saturated sports, like between PCC, rifle, shotgun, pistol. Pistol is the most saturated, from what I understand.
Yes.
So it's the most difficult as a result, as far as like the pool of competitors is larger.
Yes. Because it has the highest population, largely I think because the barrier to entry for handgun is the lowest.
Absolutely.
You know.
Is that something that interested you when you joined? Did you, instead of going the like PCC route or the shotgun route? I know you mentioned 3-gun during.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Well, when I first started, it was just John Wick that got me into shooting.
Yes.
And so when I first started, because John Wick does 3-gun.
Yeah, he does.
Right. He does a lot of pistol stuff, but John Wick also swaps out that rifle and that shotgun. And if you haven't seen the John Wick movies and you haven't seen a competition shooting match happening, they're the same thing. Like you watch John Wick shoot the bad guys and, then he ditches his rifle and picks up his shotgun, shoots some dude with his shotgun, does his reload, shoots some more, ditches the shotgun, pulls out his pistol, that's exactly what 3-gun looks like, except you're not wearing a suit and there's paper and steel targets instead of humans. So that's what got me into it. So when I first started, I was doing some 3-gun in addition to just handgun. But then because you have to have so much more stuff, right? So if you're a serious competitor, you bring not just a gun, but you bring a backup gun in case something goes wrong with that gun. That means for a 3-gun match, you're bringing 6 guns and minimum 3 different types of ammunition. A lot of time you're bringing multiple types of shotgun ammunition if it's a serious match. And so that's just, and imagine flying somewhere for a match with 6 guns and 3 different types of ammunition. It's just much more difficult to do. And then because of that barrier to entry of equipment, complexity, and cost, the participation is much lower.
Right.
So if you go to a level 1 club USPSA match, depending on where you are, there might be 50 to 100 shooters there. You go to a level 1 3-gun match, there might be like 15 people there, because there's a lot less people who have all that stuff. So I eventually morphed into just pistol because that was the one that was, I could train for that one the most, didn't have to buy more equipment, and there was more people, there was more matches to go to. But I wouldn't hate on 3-gun. 3-gun is the most John Wick of the shooting sports.
Absolutely.
So massive credit to 3-gun. It's much harder to do 3-gun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, I've heard that pretty much my entire time in firearms, and getting into shotgun gave me some context to like how there are far fewer people, and it's, as far as like the barrier to entry, like going to the World Shoot in that time, I think it's one of the only ones you could do that in that time with, probably just because of the undersaturation, super saturation, and undersaturation. Anyway, it's early. Okay, so let's talk about this. Something that I've struggled with on the side of like, I used to be one of those people that looked at competitive shooting and I was like, it's not applicable to like everyday life, and it's not, it's not like self-defense driven, when really that's not the point. That's not the point. Someone like me now, I use it to become more proficient with my firearm at distances, that are probably not applicable to self-defense. I'm not going to like shoot a dude at I might.
20 yards. Yeah, it's rare that you have to defend yourself from 20 yards away.
I was about to say, that's like really hard to defend in a court of law. And I think another thing is that I looked at the sport, and this is not to be, I'm going to say something a little spicy, but it's my podcast. So like,
do it.
Truly fuck it. When it comes to the general health of shooters, like I've not seen a lot of shooters that are in crazy good shape. Like it's kind of insane, like how incredible these, like, there are some GM shooters and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he moves like you would not think he moves.
Yeah.
So that's been really interesting. As far as your presence in the industry, I feel like you do a good job at bridging those two ideas of being healthy and then also a good shooter. And but you also don't overcomplicate it. I remember in the class, I thought there was going to be a huge movement section, and you were like, use the gun, like pretend there's a rubber band pulling you to the target and just get there. And you didn't overcomplicate it. It wasn't like that big of a deal when it comes to that. How would you for someone who's wanting to get into the competitive shooting sports, who's also like on a fitness journey, how would you say they should like balance those two concepts?
If you're someone who just works out 4 or 5 days a week, then you're already above the 50th percentile for physical fitness for competition shooters. It's just not a particularly athletic sport. It's much more about shooting skill than it is about athleticism. And that can vary from match to match. There's one match down in Florida every year. I forget what it's called, but it's just what they do is a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So like you'll start a stage on like a rope swing. But that's one match that's known for that in the country where you do that kind of stuff. A lot of the time the movement, the athletic requirements are just very, very minimal. And somebody who's very out of shape and really good at shooting is going to perform just as well as somebody who's in really good shape and also really good at shooting. It's just not usually a deciding factor. But what I always tell people is you can't shoot matches if you're dead. And that might sound crazy because you're like, oh, well, I'm not going to die anytime soon. Well, one of the best shooters in the world, maybe the best shooter in the world, is a guy named Eric Graffel, and I think he's in his late 40s now. Right. So, you know, find me a 47-year-old who's 300 pounds, who's still out there competing. That doesn't exist.
Right.
Right. You might be able to find someone in their 20s or 30s, you know, maybe getting close to 40 who's 300 pounds. But basically, for shooting, yes, but also just for your life.
Right.
You should work out and be in shape. Yeah.
Absolutely. I do think it's cool though. I've had many conversations with people that started working out because they got into competitive shooting.
So
and
dope. Love it.
feel like they could move as well and realize like agility and like speed is part of it. It can help you a lot. It's really cool to see that happen. Getting there sooner so that you can then like confirm your sight picture and all of that. Like there's a lot to be said about that. So I think that it has a great influence both ways. I think someone could look at it and kind of just say like, well, it's not a reason for me to get into shape, but I think once you start doing it, it changes. So
yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
You definitely, when you start shooting, I think the coolest thing about the sport is when you shoot your first match ever, which everyone listening to this must do. My fiance shot her first match and it was her second time ever firing a firearm. And her first time ever shooting a 9mm was at a USPSA match. She shot the whole match. Obviously, she didn't win. But you can, if you know how to safely operate a firearm, you can go shoot your first USPSA match, and you're not going to win anything. Probably, you could, I guess. But you'll realize immediately, as soon as you shoot the first stage of your first match, you'll realize, oh, let me do that again, and I could do it 20% better right now. Like, oh, I fucked that up and I fucked that up. I could have done that better. And it's one of the things I love about the sport. The next 1% of gains and progress is always within reach. Right? In bodybuilding, there's a threshold where I can keep training as hard as I want, eating as perfectly as I want. I'm never going to get to that next level if I don't do steroids. Right? If I'm not juicing, there's just like kind of a limit, right? In shooting, it's not like that. Right? You don't take steroids for shooting. There's no, your genetics really don't affect your shooting abilities hardly at all, right? Because like we said, it's much more about shooting skill than it is your physical fitness. So there really is no barrier. There's no threshold of, oh, well, I can't be that good because blah, 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 blah. The next 1% of gains is always right there. You do a rep of something in dry fire, and after every single rep, you're like, that could have been 1% better than it was. Let me do it again. And that's one of the things that I love about the sport. And I forget what question you asked that maybe bring that up, but that's what I love. That's what I love about the sport. There is no real barrier to progress. You can get good at the sport very quickly, but you have to go shoot your first match all the time.
This episode of She Shield is brought to you by Right to Bear. You've probably heard me say that self-defense is more than simply carrying a firearm. It's awareness, avoidance, and preparation for anything that is to come your way. And that's why I'm partnering with Right to Bear. They stand by defenders like you and me. You'll receive benefits like expert witness support, psychological care, gun replacement, and even protection for other lawful self-defense tools like pepper spray, knives, and even your hands and feet if you have to use them in a struggle. What sets Right to Bear apart is that they are dedicated to education and immediate legal response. In case you do ever have to protect yourself, you have access to a 24/7 attorney-answered emergency hotline so that you are never alone. What I love most, though, has to be the personal connection that Right to Bear will have with you as a member. For example, Frank, the president of Right to Bear, will give you a personal phone call when he hears about a claim being filed. That level of care in the industry is extremely rare. If you carry, train, and believe in thinking ahead to protect yourself and your family, consider getting a membership with Right to Bear. If you use my code FIT4FIA10, you will get 10% off your membership, and the link to access this and to learn more is located in the show notes of this episode, which are the notes below the title. Protecting yourself and your family should not leave you defenseless afterwards. Stay safe and stay vigilant with Right to Bear.
All the time, we'll be telling somebody, like when I was out at the range yesterday with Alistair, some guy was out there at the range, and this is somebody who's out at the range on a weekday training with their handgun. And this guy looks like he's probably he's probably about 50 years old. And, he comes over to say hi to Alistair, and Alistair's like, oh, yeah, dude, you're going to come, there's a club match this weekend. There's a level 1 USPSA match this weekend. You should come shoot it. He says, oh, competition. Oh, I don't know. It's maybe I'll come watch. And Alistair's like, no, dude, you've been shooting firearms for 30 years of your life. And you're literally out here on a Wednesday training with your handgun. Your ability level is so much more than it needs to be to go shoot a competition.
Right.
Now, if you want to win, yes, you're going to have to do a lot more training. But you're not going to do that training or know what that training needs to be like if you don't go shoot a match. So everybody needs to go shoot one match.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Yeah, and it's how I've made some of my best friends. I can't imagine being in this industry and not doing that at all. There was this part of me that, because I come from like the combative side, I was like, that'll take away from that. But it's only added to it because you then find there's a ton of overlap, like in all the little micro niches. So it's a really great social hour. If anyone's listening and you're like, I'm not motivated by like the shooting itself or the stage planning or each strategy, whatever, go to just meet people. It's really great. And everyone's super friendly. And it's not just, I'm not just saying that because I'm a female and like the dudes are friendly to me. Like, no, I've watched so many new shooters come to their first match and all the guys like just rally for that person. And they're like, do you want me to walk you through? And
everybody in the sport is, I don't know what it is. I feel like it's not this way in other sports, but everybody in competitive shooting is eager to share what they know with you.
Yeah.
If they know that you're new, they'll be like, hey,
yeah,
do you know what you're going to do? Do you want me to help you with anything like this? Or like, as soon as you say anything about your gun, they'll be like, have you thought about having this kind of gun? Like you could do this to your gun to improve how your gun functions. What kind of ammo are you shooting? What kind of, like there's a better holster you could buy that makes it easier to draw your gun. Everybody just loves talking about their equipment, their strategy, their training. Everybody loves sharing that stuff. And when someone's new, they just dump it on you.
Oh yeah.
Everyone's excited.
To the point where it can become a little overwhelming. I took one of my buddies to his first match, but like in a great way, like positive overwhelm. Right. Like when you have too many family members to catch up with at a holiday, sometimes that's negative overwhelm. Moving on. I had a buddy and he just wanted to get all alphas. He was like, I'm going into the Marines. Accuracy is everything. And whatever.
Okay.
And he was like, every guy on the squad was like, go faster. And it was like his second stage. And I know at one point it was like difficult for him because he had he defined his success before the day.
Nice.
Which
is good. He had a definition of success. That's more than a lot of people could say.
Exactly. Mine was to not DQ my first match. So like I thought his goal was great. And then I just like kept him from DQing in the background. You know what I mean? I was like, hey man, like don't touch your gun right now. I see your hand on it. Kind of thing. But yeah, something I want to ask you. It's been about a year since you came on last time. How have you developed as a shooter since then?
Well, over the last 1 year, the main thing that I've done differently is I've started doing more live fire training. So, we're big on the dry fire, right? Dry fire is huge.
Yes.
And I've always been a big dry fire guy with just supplemental amounts of live fire. But over the last year, because I've had the time and the resources, I have been doing more live fire training. And there's definitely stuff to learn, there's stuff to be gotten out of it. But if I'm being totally honest, I think I'm probably shooting a little bit too much.
Ooh.
And I should be dry firing more.
Oh.
Yeah. So
Okay.
where I was on the range yesterday with Alistair, I fly out today, and so I couldn't bring my ammo with me because it wasn't packaged properly. It was in a big loose tub. And so I had to get rid of all of it. And so I was like, hey, I'm not gonna, Alistair is, I'm gonna call him a student of mine because he is. And after being on the range with me yesterday, he is definitely training the way that I taught him to. And he was like, yo, I'm gonna do a rep of this in live fire, and then I'm gonna do a bunch of reps of it in dry fire. And I was like, I gotta get rid of this ammo, so I'm just gonna do live fire, right? And eventually, after like an hour or two, I used up all my ammunition, and we still had some time left. And so I started doing dry fire reps, and I realized, I've been slacking. I've been shooting a lot because I can. These dry fire reps, I'm getting a lot more out of them. Punching holes in targets and having the gun go bang. Yeah, there's things you need to learn about that, but it's very distracting. You can learn a lot more about what you're doing with the gun, what you're doing with your eyes, what you're doing with the sights of the gun when the gun's not going bang. And so for that, and then also, most people in the sport have a day job, right? It's not a real professional sport. It is a professional sport. Most competitors happen to have full-time day jobs.
Right.
And, the limiting factor for a lot of people is, oh, well, I want to get good, but, my range is 45 minutes from my house and I can't, shoot that much ammo. Dry fire training, I think, is, if you had to pick only one or only the other, I would pick only dry fire training, personally. I know a lot of people would disagree with that, but I think it's a lot easier to learn when you're doing dry fire. You can get a lot more reps in per minute of training, and it costs nothing.
Right. What would you say you can get or you can't get in live fire that you can get in dry fire?
Well, there's some certain different things that your hands have to do when the gun is going bang.
Right.
So especially in the division that I shoot, I'm shooting 40 caliber ammunition. So my gun goes bang a lot.
Yeah.
And there's certain things that your hands need to do with that gun so that, the sights return to the target consistently and quickly.
Right.
There's certain things that you need to do with how you pull the trigger to make the gun go off without, disturbing the sights. And things like that, kind of mechanical things that are particular to pulling a reset trigger and the gun recoiling that are specific to live fire. But outside of that, everything else. And I like the biggest thing, the biggest thing in competitive shooting is your ability to put the sights of your gun exactly where you want them very quickly. That can be done in dry fire. And that's the biggest part of the sport.
And you don't have a red dot.
No.
I think one of the biggest cheats with dry fire is like when you have a red dot, you can see exactly what your shot would have done, like just based on how the dot moves. And it's been a while since I've shot irons. I don't know if you can tell because I'm like shooting myself in the foot with this analogy, but with the dry fire and sight picture, would you say it's more difficult with irons? I actually can't speak on that. It's been a long time. You don't have this like red dot showing you like this movement pattern. Okay.
Yeah. The dot, I shot Alistair's gun a little bit. And having a dot is it's amazing. It's incredible. It's like luxurious. It's like, oh, okay, I don't have to. It removes a large part of the challenge of shooting a gun with iron sights,
right?
Which is your eyeballs need to be interpreting information from 3 different depths of things, right?
Right.
My eyes need to be getting a great amount of information from the target. So they need to be seeing the target, which could be 5 yards away, could be 25 yards away. My eyes also need to be getting information from the front sight of my gun and enough information from the rear sights to calculate the relationship between those 2 things and then project whatever that relationship between those 2 things is onto a target at whatever distance.
Right.
And that's like, you're not doing math, but, think about your brain running equations of, okay, they're this much off kilter and a little bit high above the rear sights at this distance, that means my bullet's going to hit somewhere around here.
Right.
You know, like you're running equations. Whereas with the dot, that's where the dot is, that's where the bullet goes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's a fun challenge. I enjoy shooting iron sights, and I think a gun with iron sights looks cooler. I think it looks more classic.
You know, I agree with that. And also, I have had some people say something. Who was I talking to the other day? Oh, yeah, it was Alyssa Seymour. She was the most recent guest speaker. And she was like, I should probably have a red dot on my concealed carry gun. And I was like, no, I don't think so. The chances of you utilizing your red dot in a self-defense scenario with someone 3 to 5, even like 7 feet from you is like very, very rare. Like the idea that you'll be doing that. In fact, there are statistics to support that. I'd actually like to link that in the show notes. That would be interesting. Beyond that, I am curious, when do you have to really start looking at your sights based on distance? Like at what distance do you really have to lock in to make sure you're not going to like fuck it up?
Well, that's kind of a complex question. Firstly, for the average person who maybe doesn't shoot matches and maybe goes to the range, you know, you just said that most self-defense scenarios are going to be like between 3 and 5 feet away. Anybody who's ever shot one match knows extremely well you don't even need to see your gun, right? If you dry fire for 5 minutes, you can hip fire your gun with it at the height of your belt and hit a target that's 3 to 5 feet away in the middle every time. It's just not a difficult thing to do, let alone if you have both hands on the gun and you have the gun in front of your face instead of down at your hip. That's just, you don't need iron sights on the gun, let alone a dot,
right,
to hit something that's that far away, right? If I'm 3 to 5 feet from someone, my arms are covering 3 of those feet.
Right.
So in competition where the target might be 5 feet away and it might also be 30 yards away with iron sights, this will get a little bit in depth, but
let's do it.
You should be shooting target focused, which means your eyes are focused on the target. The target is clear and your sights are blurry in the foreground, right? So like if you hold your finger out in front of you, I can look at the wall behind my finger and the finger is blurry in the foreground, or I can look at my finger and the finger is clear and the wall is blurry in the background. When you're shooting, you're looking at the target. You're looking downrange at the target and your sights are blurry in the foreground. Now with a dot, with an electronic optic, you've just got this bright red electronic dot. And wherever that is, and keep in mind, if your arms are 3 feet long, which they're not, that dot's 3 feet in front of your face.
Right.
You see the dot, even if you're looking at the target. The dot's, you got its bright red electronic dot right in front of your eyes. You look at the target, you can still see the dot, but you need the information from the target. Because if you start looking at the dot, you're now not going to know anything about the target. With iron sights, it's still the same. You still shoot target focused, looking at the target. But depending on the difficulty of the target, some percentage more information might filter in. So instead of, target focus and sight focus just being binary, 0 or 100, you're either one or the other. Maybe on a difficult target, maybe I'm 85% target focus. And I'm not switching to sight focus, but I'm allowing a little more visual information about the sights that are in front of my face to creep into my vision, because I do have to calculate more about them. Whereas if I have a dot, I'm just only target focused the whole time because the dot's just the dot,
Right.
The bright red dot is the bright red dot, and that's where the bullet goes. Whereas with the iron sights, there's a relationship between the front and rear sights, and that needs to be calculated. And I might need more visual information for the sights depending on the target. But
right.
For anybody shooting at the indoor range that probably only goes to 20 yards, and most people there are shooting targets 10 yards and under, you should be looking at the target.
Right.
Yeah, whether it's iron sights, especially a dot, but even if it's iron sights, you should be looking at the target.
Yeah, absolutely. I believe isn't it a proprioceptive index? From our belly button to our eyes, when we say point at something, we don't point from down here. We point using our line of sight. And with retention shooting, you have the proprioceptive index to be able to even bring your gun back and still know where the muzzle is pointing, where a bullet should go, just by the orientation of your body in a 3D space. So it's it's cool when you kind of tap into that and then you test oh man, my first competitive shooter instructor, when I would just overthink stuff, he would tell me to just, man, it's been a while since I've trained with him, so I can't remember the distances we were at exactly, but I want to say it was like 10 yards or something. Like he would have me shoot and like not over confirm, just kind of like trust my body. And it was insane what I was able to do. It was like, it was crazy. I miss that. I need to go back and train with him. It was a cool time when I got into that. I basically left my concealed carry training to the side because I was like, this is the coolest sport ever. Like USPC is amazing. Like there's so many good things about it. And like, especially like coming from med school where like everything's so competitive and like there's very little camaraderie, like moving into like the competitive shooting space, I was like, holy shit, these people are awesome. And I made one of my best friends. So all the more reason. Something I'd love to pivot to, by the way, and I love that we went in depth on that because it's very helpful, especially for, I'm an instructor and I don't train with iron sights very often, like very, very rarely do I. I think my Glock 43X is the only gun that doesn't have an optic, and it's because it's not MOS. And because I was like, what the fuck is MOS? When I bought my first gun, I was like, MOS, no thank you, $50 extra for optic cut. Like, what is that even? Yeah, exactly. So I'd love to transition to what you're doing now with your educational library for shooters. It's not something I've seen in the industry so far. Like, so tell us about it.
So it's called the Practical Shooting Training Library.
Hell yeah.
Which abbreviates PSTL,
yes,
pistol. Yeah, super nice. But yeah, so people get into competition and immediately they realize, wow, there's so much to learn. The spectrum of ability level is so much higher than you think, right? You show up at your first match and you think, yeah, okay, you shoot the targets, right? How different can that really be? And then you see some grandmaster shoot it with an open division gun and you're like, I didn't realize, this guy just shot a 32 round stage and hit every target pretty close to the middle in 11 seconds, right? Like I didn't realize, and the targets were an average of 15 yards away, right? Like I didn't realize that was possible with a handgun. And so people immediately start looking for good instruction, right? They want to learn more. How do I train? How do I get better? What am I doing wrong? How do I do this right? And so coaching, like what I do is, it's a pretty big thing. There's a good number of instructors out there. I'm traveling around the country constantly teaching classes and stuff, but there is a barrier to entry of, most classes. I teach a 1-day class and it's more affordable than most classes, but it's still, I've got to fly somewhere, hotel, rental cars, range fees, and I've still got to make some money. And so, classes cost hundreds of dollars. And you got to block out a weekend. You got to travel somewhere. You got to go spend a whole day or two in a group of people you've never met before. Especially if you're new to shooting, like that can be very intimidating. I've had a lot of people reach out and say, I want to take your class, but I don't think I'm ready yet to take a class with someone, of your level. And it's like, well, first of all, this class is not intended for people of my level, right? Ideally, you're taking this class because I'm at a higher level than you and I have something that I could teach you. That's the idea. But and also I'm new, right? I started in 2021, right? If there's any mantra to what you learn in the class, it's how to go from new to good in a short amount of time. And so anyway, what the online library offers is, well, now you don't have to travel to a range and book a hotel or pay $500 for a class or, be in a group or hope that you absorb everything in that weekend and remember all of it. You can go on the Practical Shooting Training Library and, there's a whole bunch of free stuff on there. And then there's also paid stuff, some of the bigger, more in-depth, more important stuff. And, you can buy a training program and then it's just in your library. So you could buy a training program on how do I dry fire? How should I be dry firing? Buy a dry fire program. And if you forget something, well, you just log back into your account, go back onto your library, open it up and review it again. Oh, nice. And it's just much, much, much cheaper than a class. It's much, much more friendly to your schedule, right? If you're only free at 9 p.m., well, then you can do that, right? If you're only free at 9 p.m. and you work 6 days a week, you can't go take classes. It's very tough. But now in the comfort of your own home, for a lot less money, you can get good instruction from good top-level shooters. There's myself, obviously, but there's a number of other very high-level shooters who are putting programs on the website right now. And we hope to continue expanding that eternally. But yeah, there's a lot of good resources on there, and it's only expanding. And if you want to get good, there's a lot of time to be saved by getting good instruction from someone who's already gotten good. and can help you save a lot of time and especially a lot of money. Because some people think that, you know, your learning is proportional to the number of rounds that you fire, and it's just not the case, right? I did a lot more shooting this year, and I think my learning curve slowed shooting more. So it's not just how much you shoot. It is about how you train, what you do in your training, how you define success in your training. And so that's the goal of the website. Make that more accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. That's so exciting. Congratulations on launching it.
Thank
That's
you.
freaking huge.
Thank you. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
There should be some good value there.
Yeah. Is it something you wish you had when you had started?
Oh, 100%. Okay. Yeah. And I mean, you can still go, you can still do things the old fashioned way where there's an amazing amount of material, you know, on Instagram and YouTube. That's where most people go, right? They go and shoot their first match and they're like, oh, wow, there's a lot to learn. Let me get on YouTube and see what I can find out. Let me get on Instagram and follow some people and see what I can find out. And you should do that too, right? It's a great way to get new information. But usually people want, you know, if they say, okay, well, I want to actually get instruction from someone who's instructing me instead of just, you know, tidbits or watching somebody on YouTube. This is what that's for.
Right.
It's no, I don't want to just watch YouTube videos. I want to get instruction and training from an instructor who is a very high level shooter, formatted in a way that's designed for me to be a student in the course.
Right.
You know, with modules, videos, written explanations,
Yes.
instructions. That's what it's supposed to be.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you mentioned that because social media is one of those things. It's a great way to spread ideas and motivate you to want to learn more, but it's just an array and mix of information, and it can become overwhelming and can even deter some, especially new shooters. So I really love this. This is freaking awesome. And again, I haven't heard of anything like it. Shivworks does a really good job at, they've started putting more things online, which is so great because ECQC, which is the first class I started with them with, it was so overwhelming between getting like absolutely mauled and the evolutions where like there's scenario training where you're grappling with helmets and simulation guns, between that like almost emotional stress in addition to the overload of information, it feels almost impossible to keep up. And like I've done 2 ECQCs now, and I know it's the same curriculum, but there are some things where I'm like, I completely forgot about that because there was so much to retain. Mm-hmm. And so they started doing more online things to supplement that. And I think it's going to be revolutionary. So you're doing this in a way where like you're also vetting the people coming on and instructing. So it's not like YouTube University where like you don't really know who to trust. Like you don't know if they're like it's called like paper grandmasters, right? Like people that just like they don't have the consistency across the board. Yeah. It's like I forget what that is.
And if my goal was to undermine using YouTube to try and convince people to go to the practical shooting training library instead, what I would say was, you know, on YouTube, yeah, you've got people who say they're all that but aren't actually, or people who don't know what they're talking about. And then also for every really good instructional video, you know, this is YouTube, right? There might be 100,000 videos that are dog shit.
Right.
Now, I'm not going to say that because obviously I would say that, right? I want you to go to the website instead and check out the online programs there. But it is very concise, right?
Right.
You get on there and you can just look at, oh, okay, Mike Huang has some programs on there. Well, he's the second best open division shooter in the entire world. He got second place at the World Shoot. He has some authority to speak on what you should be doing with your gun and how you should be training.
Right.
Oh, and look, he has a program on, I don't know, whatever it is, fill in the blank. That is something I want to get better at, and it's $20 or it's free. You know, there's everybody who goes on there. I tell them they have to put out some free content too, so that people can come see the platform, see how it works.
Absolutely.
Because once you see that it's, you know, it is like online school, right? It's not just watching a YouTube video and then, you know, pausing it. What did he say? Rewind it. It is set up like online courses, which is super convenient for learning. And so, yeah, I mean, you can still go to YouTube and Instagram and find all kinds of amazing information, right?
Right.
I'd be way too biased if I said you shouldn't do that. You should. But it's a much more concise way to get what you're looking for from people who are teaching it for a good reason.
Right.
Because they're qualified too.
Absolutely. That's exciting. Yeah, there's not a lot of standards in the industry. I say that a lot. Like Craig Douglas says it really well. He says and this is not verbatim, and I really want to say that, so sorry, Craig, if I mess this up, that to say we're an industry is to say we have standards, and there aren't a lot of them, like especially on the concealed carry and like self-defense side. So like setting that standard, I think, is really lovely. And I know you just got started, but is there a way for, like, say someone is a, like, I don't know, like a C-class shooter, I don't know. And
How are you classified?
what? So say that they go C-class. I'm C-class.
Okay,
Right now.
nice.
Yeah. So say they go onto your website and they're like, I don't know where to start. I know that I'm C-class. I know that I've shot a few classifiers, like, and I've landed in B class, but I'm still considered C-class. So like, I don't know where to land. How do they filter and know where to start?
So I would pick, most of the programs are kind of based on a specific thing. So there aren't programs on there that say this program is based on your skill level for a C-class shooter. They're not organized like that. It'll be, Travis Tomasi has a program on target transitions. I have an in-depth dry fire program if I should be dry firing at home, you know? So there's just kind of like specific topics. So as you get into the sport, I mean, I would start with the dry fire program. I'd be totally biased, right? That is, it's the number one program that's on there. It's the most popular one because it has the most value, right? If you know how to dry fire, you can put in an hour of very high quality training every day out of the week. And already you're training more than 90-something% of the competitors in the sport. If you dry fire for 1 hour a day, 5 days a week, you're out training most of the people in the sport. So that's where I would start. And because also if you are newer, no matter what level you are, but especially if you're newer, more minutes handling the gun is really what's required. More minutes seeing the sights, more minutes transitioning it between targets. That's what you need. So good dry fire program is a place to start. And then as you get into shooting, you'll finish a match sometimes and you'll be like, man, I saw this guy and he was very, very clickbaity topic is, you know, man, he really blends his positions, right? I was shooting here and then I had to stop and run over there and shoot over there. But that guy, he blended those positions together. He just kept shooting. That's a big thing. So Mike Huang is, we filmed a pretty in-depth program on blending positions because he's very good at that. He's very well known for, he just doesn't stop shooting between positions. It just keeps going.
Oh, that's awesome.
So he's going to have a program on blending. So when you finish that match or you watch YouTube videos and you're like, dang, like these people just don't stop shooting. It's all one big position. They just blend everything together. How do I do that? Then you can be like, oh, let me go check on the library and see if there's a program for that. Yeah, yes, there is. Perfect. So you can kind of go specific thing by specific thing. Yeah. But if you're new, you should start dry firing.
I like that.
Nice.
So tell me something. What are your goals for 2026? We're rounding the corner. It's October 31st. Happy Halloween. What are you thinking for 2026?
Alistair asked me that yesterday, and it's a tough question, right? So I have some specific goals, but usually when people ask that, they're asking, what division are you going to compete in, and where do you want to finish at nationals?
Ooh.
That's usually kind of, I feel like, the core of that question. What are your goals for next year? What gun are you going to shoot, and where do you want to place at nationals?
Yeah.
What gun are you going to shoot, and how good are you going to be with it? So I'll be switching to most likely I'll be switching to limited optics. So I'll be shooting a dot, which I'm very excited for. Shooting 9mm instead of 40 and having a dot instead of irons. It's getting driven around in an Uber instead of riding your bicycle somewhere.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
like it's just so much nicer. It's so much nicer.
Freaking awesome.
And so as for shooting, that's a very competitive division. Like my goal isn't to win nationals, also because, I can't control that. I can't control how everybody else at nationals is going to perform in 2026. So I guess my goal is to have fun training and getting infinitely better in this new division that I'm going to be competing in. That's my real goal.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
That's exciting. When are you transitioning? What's the...
After this trip.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah, so I'm going from here. I also fly out today to California. I'm going to teach a couple classes there, do a little bit of training there. And then next weekend is the Area 2 Championships. This coming week will be my last week shooting my current division, limited division, with iron sights. And so all through the winter, I'm going to disappear into the Bat Cave with my new 9mm dot guns.
that's awesome.
And I will emerge in the spring from my cocoon.
That's freaking awesome.
As a beautiful dot shooting butterfly.
How exciting. How exciting. That's freaking awesome. Yeah, that's so cool. Okay, very cool. We should probably wrap. So this has been awesome. Thank you for coming over at 6:30 a.m.
Great to be here.
Seriously.
Thanks for the coffee.
Oh, fuck yeah. Literally the least I could do. Okay, so tell me this. What would you like to leave the listeners with? I still ask that same question because it's my favorite.
Yeah, so everybody who hasn't shot competition thinks that they can't do it and thinks that that's like some super high, lofty, unattainable thing, right? Like the guy at the range, he's been shooting guns for 40 years and he says, oh, that's too much for me. It's just not the case. If you know how to safely operate a firearm, a handgun, not even any firearm, if you know how to safely operate a handgun, you can go to your first USPSA match. You need a belt with a holster and a gun and ammo. Show up to that match with that gun in a bag or a box, not loaded, and then ask somebody what to do.
Boom.
That's it. That's it. There's a lot of safety rules, right? There's a lot of safety rules in football, and they don't even have live weapons, right? There's a lot of safety rules in the sport. You will learn them as you go. Show up with an unloaded gun in some kind of box or bag, and then ask somebody what to do. And you'll need a belt with a holster. Yeah. And I think some people miss this all the time too, because the website is a little confusing to use at first, but practiscore.com. Practi, like the first part of practical, and then score. practiscore.com. That is the website where you find USPSA matches and other shooting sport matches, but that's where you sign up for them and find them. So go to practiscore.com, find a match. If you know somebody who does do competition already, message them, ask them, hey, I want to go shoot a match. But you have to go shoot a match. And as soon as you shoot that match, you'll realize, one, okay, I can do this. Two, if I go dry fire for 20 minutes, I could come back and shoot this match again tomorrow and be considerably better. The possibilities for making gains and progress is very, very readily accessible. So yeah, everybody go shoot. And then you can check out practicalshootingtraininglibrary.com for online training programs. On Instagram, it's @practicallibrary.
And it will be tagged / linked in the show notes, which are the notes below the title, along with all of Joey's website, social platforms, all of that.
The Instagram page is new. That's why it only has like 500 followers. It just made it the other week. So
absolutely.
Don't think you found the wrong one when you see it doesn't have a lot of followers.
Right. That or you think it's like a spam account because
Right.
And then like all the suppression right now is insane. So yeah, absolutely. I think that was the right move to create another page for it. And yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. It's easy to want to be like, well, I already have all these followers on, because you're doing quite well with that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
It's great. Absolutely. Very cool.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This has been so much fun.
Great to be here. Thank you. Thanks again for the coffee.
Absolutely. This is the third guest speaker I've filmed in my studio in person, and I so much prefer it. Like, it's insane. So yeah, it was a little bit of a rough setup, but I appreciate you rolling with punches, and I look forward to the next time. I think we should do just a dry fire training session and like film it next time. I think we'll totally do that. It's been a busy week, but that's like my goal for when you come back in town, if you're down for that.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for listening. Check out the show notes. Keep up with Joey's journey, and definitely train with him. Don't go to YouTube. Go to the PSTL. The PSTL?
PSTO, yeah.
PSTO. Is that okay? Hell yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. That's it. That's the